There clearly is a need. I think everyone agrees there's a need to have more money for small business. So what is the hang-up at this point? Is it a question of what conditions you put on the extra money on going to small business, or is it other things such as hospitals and states?
Well, we know, we recognize absolutely, and every Democrat does, every Republican does, that the need to help more, to help, to provide more to small business to help them. We don't want it just to be that, and we know that if Senator McConnell is able to get that, he may not come back and want to help with hospitals and state and local government and emergency assistance for people who might be on the verge of eviction, food banks, food SNAP program, all of that, because the need is so great everywhere. A lot of us spend much of the day on conference calls with all kinds of people, from food banks to grocery store workers to bus drivers to veterans to seniors to banks, and I talked to a number of community bankers too. And the need is everywhere. We want to do this. We just want to do it all together so that that we can reach out more than as much as the business community needs this help in small businesses. We want some changes in the program. We do see, as your story has said, that too many people that don't need it seem to have their hands out. And this administration also has a reputation of helping their friends, their special interest friends, even more than most politicians do. And so we want to do all that, but we can do it in a week if Senator McConnell would open the negotiations with us.
Do you have to get it by unanimous consent? Because given the situation, social distancing and things, it's going to be hard to bring everybody back to Capitol Hill to get a vote. So do you have to have it by unanimous consent? Does that essentially make you hostage to any individual member?
Well, it does that. I mean, you can point back, if you want, you can point back to the last vote was 96 or 98 to nothing, whatever the number was. The nothing is the key number, the zero. But I think you're right. If you go into negotiations and one outlier or member of the Senate, and there are often a couple, especially the sort of far right of a generally very conservative Republican Party. You see that, but there are ways of doing it without bringing everybody back. To get a quorum, to do what we need to do that way. The House can figure out a way too. But the point is, let's start the negotiations now. I know Senator Schumer's talking to the administration, but I want Speaker Pelosi in it. I want Senator McConnell to do it. I want the Republican leader in the House, McCarthy, there. So it should be a basically five-way negotiation, and we all have let Senator Schumer, or the Democratic leader for Senate Democrats, the leader for Senate Democrats, we've let them know what we need, and each of us, and we hear from people all the time about what our states need. We trust the negotiations can work well then. They could wrap up in a week or 10 days. If we have to come back and vote quickly and leave, I don't want to expose my staff to it. I'm not going to get on an airplane again. People that I've been on one in about 4 weeks, I can drive because it's Ohio. But people west of the Mississippi have a pretty long trip. But I think there are ways of doing this, but it's got to start with McConnell actually wanting to start the negotiations, which he's refused to do.
What are you hearing from your constituents back in Ohio?
I'm hearing mostly, I talked to a group of people yesterday that you wouldn't necessarily think about. I talked to grocery store workers. And they have all kinds of levels of concern about where they work and their exposure to the public, and they know that coworkers have gotten sick. They also know, I mean, to me, it shows we call them essential workers. Many of the people we call essential workers, our government and our society, and no offense, but our news media pay little attention to. They're the bus drivers. They're the mostly women that do the housekeeping at the hospital. They're the janitors and the security guards and the grocery store workers and the checkout people at drugstores. They're essential workers. They're all working now. They have to. We need them. I get to work at home. I'm privileged to get to work at home like millions of Americans. But these essential workers, most of them make only moderate to low income wages, and we should be giving them a pandemic bonus. We should be, first of all, making sure their workplaces are safe. Those that are union workplaces, like some of the workers I talked to yesterday, can get their companies to pay more attention to safety. Those that are not union have a little more difficulty getting their companies to pay attention to making their workplaces safer. We know that. I think we're going to learn some lessons from this in the days after, the days when this virus is actually in the rearview mirror.
Senator, there are proposals, as you know so well, you've made some of them about trying to take care of those essential workers, as you call them, both premium pay, but also maybe sick pay, job security, things like that. Is it realistic, you think, to get that in this fourth wave, so to speak, of the spending bill?
I think it's realistic to get some part of it, maybe not as much as some of us would like. I think one thing that policymakers who, one of my favorite Abraham Lincoln stories is he was in the White House and his staff said, you got to stay in the White House and win the war and free the slaves and preserve the Union. And Lincoln said, no, I got to go out and get my public opinion back. And I'm hopeful that my colleagues in the Senate are spending enough time on the phones talking to people that they really do see what sick pay means. So you're a $12 an hour hourly wage earner. You're the principal breadwinner for your family. You get sick. You have to make a decision. Do I go to work sick, maybe getting sicker, maybe infecting others, or do I stay home and lose that $12 an hour, $96 a day pay when I can barely make my rent anyway? Nobody should be faced with that in this society. And we're hearing those, I think even the most dug-in, combative, conservative Republican is hearing enough of those stories that maybe they'll understand we really do need some long-term sick day policies and other things like that to protect this essential workforce.